Today was a scalper's dream. If you knew what levels to watch and what VWAPs to have on your charts, you could really find clean trend continuation trades today. And I want you guys to be able to spot these trades in the future. So let's get into it here on ES. This is on the 1 minute chart on the regular trading hours. So I'm only focused on the 9:30 New York Open. My black VWAP is from that 9:30 New York Open. And this blue one is actually anchored from yesterday's 9:30 New York Open. So when we come into the day, we have a nice bullish pop. The first trade idea of the day as buyers hold this New York view up here at the open. But I don't really love to trade while the opening range is setting those first 15 minutes of the day. 15 minutes looking kind of bullish, but I don't need to trade it this early on. Let it shake itself out, set a direction, and I'll look for the next piece of that trend. But then we get a nice pop for a new high a day outside that open range high, setting in that long bias. But again, if you've seen Futures 2.0, which I hope you have, it's on ASFX TV, my full VWAP course. You can get access to it with code Evan. It pulls back to New York view up because I don't want to chase this first break of open range high. It often doesn't run very far. But I want to make sure that sellers don't step in and that be inducement up here of longs. So once the buyers defend this New York view up and this opening range high, this black horizontal level, right? I just simply put on a high a day view up and you're scalping it. Once buyers take back that control, stop all set structure. And I take up this lesson all the time of the quicker it moves up, either in point value and or time duration, the quicker I'm out, because these straight up moves don't sustain. The markets like to move in waves. It very rarely just moves up 10 straight 1 minute candles in a row. So we know we're going to get some sort of pullback. I don't necessarily need to hold on to that. Let me get out of this thing. 4 minutes straight profit right up to 1R. I'm not getting greedy. I'm out of it. I could always look for another trade. That's the first play. Then we could anchor on another high a day view up from that current high we just got out of, and it pulls back, but it actually comes below the New York VWAP. That's why we don't just buy the bounce off New York view up like we could have here, right? We wait for it to actually bounce and buyers show their hand with a bullish bar to make sure that we're not catching that falling knife, which is exactly here. If you buy it here, depending on where your stop loss is, you could survive, but you suffer immediate drawdown as it's not done pulling back. It wants to come all the way back down to that previous day's New York VWAP where it held here at the open and then makes its move higher. So if you could just show a little bit of patience and wait for it to start to turn, confirm that it is holding that VWAP, you can get the same price that you wanted back here, but just get it 10 minutes later, now safer after the pullback is fully done. Stop all set structure. Buyers are back in on this break back above New York VWAP, right? The same thing. Same price that we bought it at earlier. This is the price that pays, and it's the same price that could have been bought earlier, but we don't want to chase that because it's also about timing. Same thing with this. This is the price that pays, but it's not the right time to buy that price. So getting in after the hold, you get a nice new pop for a new high a day because the trend is really clear. We're holding this level nicely. Now let's zoom it on to the next. We can even put on a high a day view up over here as well. But what's the price that pays again today? Pulls back to the New York VWAP. New York VWAP. Another higher low, new high a day. Pulls back even later on in the afternoon, right? Don't just buy the falling knife. Wait for it to start to turn. Well, it's actually not done pulling back. It wants to retest the daily view up, which we could take a look at here on the 15 minute. As that's what also was helping the bullish bias today. If we throw on the daily view up, which is the start of day on the 15 minute, we'll turn that one black. Once we get the long pop here at the open, this is where our first trade came in, breaking above the 15 minute daily. Okay, cool, nice. We're nice and bullish today. And then all these retests are just retests to the daily view up where I know price likes to move from. That's why I like to buy a pre-market during the open. Whenever the case may be, moves happen from here in the direction of trend, just to how they similarly move from the New York VWAP on the 1 minute. Now, another reason that I really like the longs is if you just zoom out, it's only Tuesday this week, but looking back from last week into this week, what are we still making? If I clear all the drawings here, we're still making higher lows from Friday into Monday's low. And so far today, is this going to just sell off? It could, but it's not really giving me hints at that. It's still telling me that the overall trend is bullish, so that at any moment now, I could potentially more so expect a higher low to be built than this thing just to sell off. So with that bullish bias in mind, once it forms that higher low right off of the previous day's New York view up like we had on here, right? Once it gets back above that, now it's looking like a higher low back above today's daily view up. That's why we get the trend continuation for a nice higher high. But if you're not zoomed in on the 1 minute and the 15 minute, then you can't really see that this 15 minute is nice and bullish, actually telling you should be loving the longs because that's the actual direction of the trend. So now when you get back over here, like we just said, the 15 minutes nice and bullish. So hopefully no one's selling this break below New York view up. With all this bullish sentiment we had today, it is not the time to just jump in and switch to shorts. it's probably going to build a higher low somewhere. And like I said, this is right off that 15-minute daily VWAP we just took a look at. So if you bought it anywhere around this New York VWAP or the open range high, we had long opportunities. First at the open, we don't want to chase those. You get it after the retest. You get the bounce play. You get 2 more bounce plays off the New York VWAP. And then you could buy it there. Maybe you take a loss, but maybe you waited for it to turn and hold that VWAP again. That's still the price that pays. If you could buy it off of this New York VWAP after a good turn, showing that buyers are still holding control, you can get nice pops of trend continuation, right? If you've seen any of the videos on this channel, I'm really all about finding the next leg of trend. So rather than chasing this thing higher up and then buying it at the very top, if it could reset to these key VWAPs, I really like how it's loading up to maybe make that next leg of trend. Everything I'm trading is to go get that next higher high, not buy it at the higher high way up here, let it pull back, I'll get the next one, right? Too many people have FOMO that this is the last move. It's just going to rip on forever without me. So many times it will pull back to this level, give you a better price to get in, a safer price, pure profit with no drawdown, and you get a nice easy trade. It's hard to mess up that way. If you buy it here, it's tough to really mess up that trade as it's just all into profit, never freaks you out, never scares you, doesn't chop around because now it's ready to go. So hopefully you have these levels on your charts and hopefully you made money this way today. Now a key lesson we could look at, which I hovered over, is a zone above us. If we look at yesterday's high here on the 15-minute, yesterday's high into Asia high overnight, let's draw a box there. We couldn't really get above that at all during these long opportunities. So now when we look at that on the 1 minute, it can't really get above it. So that could be a tough long for sure. I think the longs earlier where we took them are kind of safe because it hasn't really rejected it yet. We don't know that it can't purely get above it. But then once you see it reject it, and then maybe even over here, it's tough to take. And I'd say even over here, it could be tough to take because it's tough to know that that's the time it's ready to break through that zone. The best play would be to wait for it to break it, retest it, and then find more longs above it. Today, it made that big move, and it just sat sideways. It was done. But let's game plan. Where could we have made money today with this zone in mind? Well, if you're going to be trading into a zone, you want to be trading to it, not at it, right? So the worst place to do would be anchoring a high day view up here and then buying it once buyers step back in because you're right at that zone. So you're now asking for it to break through it in order for you to win. That's a tough ask, and I don't want to have to ask that. It could be definitely tough to still buy it down here off New York, but you know you're bullish, and you know you're more so bullish on the 15-minute. That trend is strong, that it could break it. Now, again, I don't want to predict that when it's going to break it or that it's going to break it, but depending on your stop loss and everything, you can get out of this trade before it even gets to that zone. So you can still make money in maybe this little pop, or maybe you hold it longer, and you trade it up to that zone, and you're out. That way, if it rejects like it did, doesn't matter. You're out. You made your money. The trend doesn't necessarily need to continue for a new high in order for you to make money, right? So the worst thing to do is to be trading at these levels. You want to be trading to them or away from them. But you know me, I'm not really looking to trade counter trend, counter the New York view up. I want to be looking for the next leg back up. So thanks to the help of the 15-minute, as well as just recognizing this trend is very strong in the 15-minute, going from last week into this week. That's the same thing. Seeing the pre-market come down a little bit in this move down here doesn't scare me or set in a bearish bias for the day because we hadn't taken out of yesterday's low. So we take out a previous day's low. I'm not very bearish when we're in a bullish trend short term of higher highs and higher lows. It's the same thing on Friday. It chopped sideways, but it built a higher low and came back higher. Monday, this week, started up a little bullish, but actually sold off. But the sells didn't just run forever because the trend's not actually bearish. It's just a pullback in a bearish trend. So I like the money to the upside in bullish trends. This is the easier money. That's the easier money. And then today, that's the easier money. So like I said, hopefully you made some money. Hopefully this gives you some value on what key levels to look at and what VWAPs to put on your chart. And one other thing, if you go to ASFX TV, like I mentioned, you'll get full access to the course where I teach this strategy, but also on the live streams where I take these trades every morning. And then if you missed that, here's the replays to them. But really clean stream this morning where we caught these longs because it's just so clean. It was like almost like a masterclass and perfect setup because we got in, got out at the top, re-enter again at the key level. We weren't getting greedy, weren't overcomplicating the thing, just playing with the VWAPs. Very clean textbook. So hope you made money today. Let me know if you have any other questions or other videos you want to see. And let's keep trading with these VWAPs, zooming out on the 15-minute. I'll see you guys on the charts tomorrow morning.